In Unit 1, Homework 3, we're going to be looking at parallel and perpendicular lines. So we're going to be building on equations of lines, slopes, x and y intercepts like we were in the last section, but in particular we'll be focusing on parallel and perpendicular lines. So let's go ahead and start with some definitions. Parallel. Parallel lines have the same slope. So if we were to draw a set of parallel lines on the Cartesian coordinate system, we might run into two lines that are both positive slope, for instance. So in this case, the slope of line 1 and the slope of line 2 are equal, so they're considered to be parallel. So parallel lines have the same slope. That's our big important takeaway from that. Now perpendicular lines do not have the same slope, but they do have a relationship. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. Now when we talk about negative reciprocal slopes, let's go ahead and give an example of that as soon as we graph some perpendicular lines. The Cartesian coordinate system are perpendicular lines because they intersect in the middle at a 90-degree angle, and that little box means a 90-degree angle. But we could also sketch some perpendicular lines. They meet at a 90-degree angle. So here slope 1 and slope 2 are not the same, they're not equal. One has a positive and one has a negative slope. But what I can talk about is the slope of one is the negative reciprocal of the other. So let's give an example. Let's say we have line 1. So line 1 is equal to 2/3 x plus 7. Well, here the slope is 2/3, so I'm going to say the slope of line 1 is 2/3. Well, if line 1 is perpendicular to line 2, and the symbol means perpendicular, that means that I should be able to come up with the slope of line 2 then. Well, reciprocal means to flip, so I'd take 2/3 and rewrite it as 3/2, and then I would take the negative. So I'd know that my slope is the negative reciprocal of the other line. Now what's the negative reciprocal of negative 3/2? We'd flip the 3/2 to get 2/3. I'd negate the negative to get a positive, and so they're negative reciprocals of each other. So negative reciprocal slopes for perpendicular lines. Now the kinds of problems that you'll run into in this particular homework set will be a lot of graphs to look at in My Math Lab. So let's go ahead and pull in some problems from My Math Lab. Okay, let's get this to a reasonable size. So again, these are just the same problems that you'll be seeing in My Math Lab. The numbers will change, but the process will be the same. So let's take a look at this first one and see what you'll be asked to find. It says write an equation for the line L. Okay, so here we need to make sure, here's the line L right here. So write an equation for the line L in point-slope form. So point-slope form. So when we think about point-slope form, that's the y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And in slope-intercept form, okay, slope-intercept form, that's going to be equal to the y is mx plus b. Okay. First of all, we know that they're parallel, so that means same slope. Well, if we know the slope of this line, y equal 2x, we know the slope is 2 here. So that tells me that the slope of the line L is also 2. So the slope of L is 2. So that means m equals 2. And then look at, they give me a point on L as well, 1, -3. So we can also use this point, 1, -3. So to get started, let's go ahead and do the point-slope form. So I'd have y minus a -3, so y minus y1 is equal to m, which is my slope, x minus x1, which is 1. Remember, we won't leave it like this. We'll get rid of the minus and negative. The two negatives make a positive. So this will be y plus 3 is equal to 2 times the quantity x minus 1. So that's what will go in this first one where it says point-slope form. Now slope-intercept form, last time I showed you to plug in your value to y equal mx plus b. M in this case is 2. And then what I can do is I know y is negative 3 equals 2, x is 1, and then solve for b. So I have negative 3 equals 2 plus b, and I'd subtract 2 from both sides, and I get b equals negative 5. So I have y equal 2x minus 5. That's the equation of L basically. So now this is easy to find. This is slope is 2, y-intercept is negative 5. So for the red line, the y-intercept is negative 5. I guess it would have been smarter for me just to come and look at the picture to find that nice y-intercept. But that's an example of how I can be given a slope and asked to find the parallel lines. Given the parallel lines, I could find the slope-intercept and the point-slope form of the equation. Let's do another one where we're working with perpendicular lines. Okay, this one, it says write an equation for the line L in point-slope form. So remember point-slope form, that's that y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1, and slope-intercept form. Okay, that's y equal mx plus b. And we know line L, so here's L this time, is perpendicular to this line, which is y equal 3x. So y equal 3x. The slope is 3. L is perpendicular to y equal 3x. So that means it has a negative reciprocal slope. Okay, so first slope is 3. We're going to call it 3 over 1. The perpendicular slope then of line L is a negative reciprocal. The reciprocal of 3 over 1 is 1/3, and then I negate it. So I know it's a negative reciprocal. So this line L has a slope equal to negative 1/3. Now, remember on our last one, the y-intercept was really easy to see. But for this one, the y-intercept, it's between 3 and 4. I can't really get any closer than that. So I'm going to have to really work this one through. So let's go ahead and find the point-slope form of the equation. So we'll start with the general point-slope form. And then we'll go ahead and populate this equation. So we have y minus y1. Now this is the point that we want to use, the 1, 3. So I'm going to have y minus 3 is equal to a negative 1/3 times x minus 1. And again, the 3 comes from this point, and the 1 comes from the x value. So this is my point-slope form. Now for our next one, we want the slope-intercept form. Now from my picture, I already know that my y-intercept better be between 3 and 4. So this is y equal mx plus b. So I have y equal, well wait a minute, I can start right away. I know what y is. From up here, y I know is 3. So I have 3 equal, my slope is a negative 1/3, my x value is 1 plus b. So I have 3 equals negative 1/3 plus b. I'd add the 1/3 to both sides to solve for b, and I get b equals 3 and 1/3. Now, just as a quick warning, before we rewrite this, we need to remember that for some reason in college level math, we don't like mixed numbers. We usually use fractions. So make sure you always read the directions, and when it says to use a fraction, they mean an improper fraction. If they want a mixed number, they'll say mixed number. So I have y equal negative 1/3 x plus 3 1/3. The negative 1/3 comes from the slope. But remember, for your final answer, you'll change this to an improper fraction. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10 over 3. So this is my correct solution. Remember, no mixed numbers, we like to work with improper fractions. Now what ends up happening with your homework problems is we start mixing up everything with parallel, perpendicular, x and y intercepts. And so you really get into a large number of problems where you're given a lot of diverse information and asked to find equations of the lines. And remember, when you're asked to find the equation of the line, make sure you read the directions so you know which form they want that in. So let's go ahead and look at this example. It says write the slope-intercept equation. Okay, so slope-intercept equation, that means that we want y equal mx plus b. Now they use the word function here, and we need to keep that in mind when we get to the end. So slope-intercept, that's y equal mx plus b. Now the equation of the function, we denote a function f of x. So when we get done, instead of the y, we're going to have f of x for our solution equals mx plus b. Okay, so let's focus on how we find that now. The graph has to satisfy the given conditions. It passes through the negative 3, 5, so we know we have a point, negative 3, 5, and is perpendicular to the line whose equation is x equal negative 9. So it's perpendicular to x equal negative 9. Well, I want to take a quick graph of that. X equal negative 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Negative 9. Well, here's the line x equal negative 9 right here. So this is x equal negative 9. Now, if I wanted to be perpendicular to that, there's a lot of lines perpendicular to this. There's this one. There's this one. There's an infinite number of these. But what's true about all of these is their slope is equal to 0. So it doesn't matter which line I draw. Most lines only have one line that's perpendicular, but this has an infinite number. Well, I should say they have an infinite number that are perpendicular, but they're in different locations. You can kind of slide them up and down there, but they all have the same slope. So what I learned here is I now know my slope. The slope is 0 because here the slope is undefined. So for this x equal negative 9, the slope is undefined. The line that's perpendicular to that has a slope of 0. So this is going to look like y equal 0x plus b. Okay, so y was 5 equals 0 times negative 3 plus b. So I get 5 equal b. My y-intercept is 5. My slope is 0. So it's y equals 0x plus 5. But we don't want to include 0 times x. That's just 0. So basically I end up with y equal 5 here. Now because this is functional notation, this is my solution. I use f of x equal 5. Now sometimes the software will include the f of x and sometimes it won't. In this case it doesn't. So you want to make sure that you do include the f of x equal 5. And this basically says I have no slope, I have a horizontal line, but I cross the x-axis, or the y-axis at 5. So again, here we're kind of mixing up a lot of different types of problems and types of information that have been given. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our next one. Again, each of these has the same basic key features that they're looking for. They just are providing us with different information each time. And so we have to read the problem, figure out what information is provided, and what we need to do from there to get to the solution. Okay, so let's have a look here. It says write the slope-intercept equation of the function. So here, we see this word function. Make sure you include in our answer f of x equals, before we're done, slope-intercept. Slope-intercept, y equal mx plus b, whose graph satisfies the given conditions. It goes through the point, okay, negative 6, 5, and it's perpendicular to the line that has an x-intercept of 1. Okay, an x-intercept of 1. That means the x value is 1 and the y value is 0. And a y-intercept of negative 3 means I have an x value of 0 and a y value of negative 3. So it's perpendicular to the graph of the line that runs through these 2 points. Well, I need to find the slope. Remember, slope is change in y over change in x. And it doesn't matter which point I start with. I'm going to start with the negative 3 minus 0. And then, of course, I have to start with the same point, 0 minus 1. Negative 3 minus 0 is minus 3. 0 minus 1 is negative 1, so I have a slope of 3 here. Well, remember, perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. So I'm going to take this, and that's going to tell me that, again, it's a negative reciprocal. The reciprocal of 3 over 1 is 1/3, and then I negate it, and I make it negative. So, I need to find the slope-intercept form. So, y equal, okay, I know what y is, it's 5 equal. Slope, negative 1/3 x. X in this particular case is negative 6 plus b. Now, whenever I multiply by fractions, I always want to make sure both are in fraction form. So I have 5 equals. A negative times a negative is a positive. 3 goes into 6 twice. So I have 2 plus b. Now, if you're not good with your fractions, negative 1/3 times 6, just pop open your calculator. So we'd start here, and I'd have a negative 1/3 times negative 6. So I get 2. So again, if you need to use your calculator, go ahead and do that. You want to make sure that it's more important to get right answers than to guess and get them wrong. So then we'd subtract 2 here. So I have 3 equals b. So I know that my y-intercept is 3. So again, this is my y-intercept. So to write the equation of the line here then, I'd have y equal m, which was my slope from here, negative 1/3 x plus b, which is 3. Now, because this said functional notation, we want to use f of x equals negative 1/3 x plus 3. So that's going to go up here. F of x equals negative 1/3 x plus 3 is your solution. So in this case, you did have to provide that f of x notation. So these are the types of problems. This is a whole short homework set, but these are the types of the problems that you'll see in this homework. Remember, if you have any questions, please stop by my office, shoot me an email, or bring questions to class.